here's where I was going. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves. So clearly there's a fear dimension here.
Yeah.
So they have the experience of shame. They're now suddenly self-aware in a way that has a guilt associated with it. They then assume incorrectly that the shame that they're feeling is actually a reflection of God's attitude toward them, and they're afraid.
Yeah.
So their instinct is to flee from the very one that had made them, created them, and had actually entrusted the garden to them.
Somewhere in the Bible, I think it's in Proverbs, it says, the wicked flee when no one pursues.
Yeah, when no one
I think
pursues.
part of this is because their situation is in context of what God had said to them in Genesis 2. In the day that you eat of that tree, of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, you're going to die. And they didn't die. I mean, the serpent said you won't die. God said you will die. They ate the fruit and they didn't die. So I can imagine that they're thinking, well, if the fruit didn't kill us, God certainly is or will.
That's a powerful
You see what I'm
point.
saying? So they're thinking, there is a promise that God has made here toward us, and the serpent was probably right. Their experience is telling them that the serpent was right, the fruit didn't kill us.
I've just got to jump in there, though, and say that God had not said, and I know this isn't what you're saying, but this just goes to show how the deception worked. God didn't say, in the day that you eat thereof, I will surely kill you.
Exactly.
He said, in the day you eat thereof,
That's the point
you
he's
will
making.
surely
I
die.
know, I get it.
Yes.
Isn't that the point you're making?
But the deception is they think he's out to get us.
Yes.
So the feelings of shame and guilt that they're experiencing, they incorrectly assume are a reflection of God's attitude toward them. And they flee.
Verse 8 says they hid themselves.
Yeah.
What's happening in the context is, who are they hiding from? Not each other, they're hiding together. So Adam and Eve are both in the bushes hiding together. They're hiding from God, which says that their whole perception of God's character has been so distorted that now they're expecting things from God that aren't even there.
Yes.
That's right.
It's not even there. When God finally does come to them, he doesn't come pouncing and snorting and pointing the finger. He comes
To announce good news.
to announce good news. To
He
give the
comes to
gospel.
announce that a way of escape has been made from the predicament in which they find themselves.
I think it's a bit weird that they're going to hide in bushes, like in behind a tree. Like you would think.
Well, there were no buildings to hide in at that point, Jeffrey.
I'm wondering why they're hiding behind a tree. Period. I mean, you would think.
Versus.
I'm just saying. This
Well,
is
they're
God.
hiding in
This is
two ways,
Almighty
Jeffrey.
God.
They're
So
hiding
this-
in two ways.
So I'm saying it has to be deeper than
First
just.
of all, they're trying to hide in the sense of making the coverings. They're trying to hide their nakedness. They're trying to hide their guilt. They're trying to compensate for the problem that they sense is going on. They feel condemned, and they're trying to ameliorate that sense of condemnation. Secondly, they hide in the trees because it's the irrational thing to do.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Well, it is
But
irrational.
it's
That's
all
where
they
I'm
can do.
going.
Well, didn't you hear the verse I was quoting? I don't know where it is.
Proverbs
the wicked,
28:1.
Okay, the wicked pursue when
no one is.
The wicked
Flee.
flee when no one pursues.
Yeah.
That's the phobia of the sin problem. You're assuming, okay, here comes God, let's hide. It's pointless. Of course it's irrational.
And so what I'm saying is that that's.
How do you hide from an omnipresent God?
That's the point, and that's a powerful picture of the world today. I mean, the way we live our lives, it is so irrational, and it even goes contrary to what we already know is reality, and we go contrary to reality. They're hiding from God. It's impossible to hide from God. So I think that's another dimension of the psychology of sin's impact on the human psyche and on the human experience.
The irrationality is born out of the fact that they are now experiencing a battery of emotions that God never intended or created them to experience.
And they don't know how to react.
That's right.
For the
They
first
don't know what
time,
to do with
I mean,
it.
we're very familiar of what shame feels like. I mean, I know I'm
How about that
I'm
Fernando
very
Ortega song?
well familiar with what shame and guilt feels like.
That Fernando Ortega song,
Which one?
Remember Me, Not My Shame. Every time I hear that song, it just
But just
it just
imagine
moves
these
my
people
heart.
that for the first time
Ever.
That's
Yeah.
right.
they're experiencing what it feels like to be ashamed and to feel guilty. And I love what you said. They're just like freaking out because they've never felt that before.
So
they don't
these-
even know what to do, so they go hiding.
So these are survival mechanisms.
Coping, yeah.
Coping mechanisms. They're breaking down mentally and emotionally, feeling guilty. They hide from God because they're afraid of him. God comes and says, "Where are you?" Obviously, in the story, the tone of his voice is not as threatening as they were expecting. It's not threatening at all because they immediately present themselves before the Lord. They come before God. And they say, well, the reason we were hiding is because we were afraid because we were naked. And then God says, Who told you
Yeah,
you
who
were
told you
naked?
that?
I mean, think of that. Who told you you were naked? What is God saying in that? Who told you you were naked? Not me. The implication is that what you think of me? Is that how you expected me to approach you? You're feeling shame, you're feeling condemnation, but it's not coming from me. These are the things that are going on inside your heart and mind because of, what does he say? Did you eat
Of the
tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden tree? God immediately points to the sin itself as the source of all these new battery of negative emotions that they're experiencing.
And what's amazing to me is that the first response that Adam gives is a clear indication of the complete depravity of human nature right at the fall. He says, the woman. It's self-justification immediately. It's
Blame
self-justification,
casting, yeah.
blame casting. The woman.
Yeah.
But
The
it
woman
goes-
you gave me, she's the one.
And it goes perfectly with what we said. The instance that they sever that connection and relationship with God, it immediately has social implications. So the first recorded instance of a
Yeah, there you
marital
go.
crisis.
The love,
Yeah.
the selfless.
Yeah, it's the very
Reflection.
second or moment after they break their connection with God. And so that goes back with the whole first commandment and second commandment. Love to God. If you
Yes.
break that,
The vertical, the horizontal.